Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Farrah, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a reading vlog of the book Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This is a science fiction book that has won a few awards, and I've heard a couple people talk about it, but I don't really know anything about the book. I don't know what it's about at all. I've never seen any adaptations of it. I've never seen any spoilers of it. So I'm just going to kind of jump in blindly a little bit and see how it goes. I got the digital ebook from the library, but I also have the audio, so I'm going to try both and see which one I prefer. But I'm really excited to get to it because everybody that I've talked to that have read this has really enjoyed it, so I hope I enjoy it as well. So I'm going to read a little bit of the book and then I will check in with my thoughts. All I know is that it's about a 30-year-old man named Charlie with intellectual disability, and I think there's some kind of experiment. I don't know who Algernon is or what Algernon is. So we will see what happens. I'll check in a few. Okay guys, well, I just have some really quick thoughts initially as I've started the book. And what I've done is I'm reading it on my Kindle, but I'm also listening to the audio that I got from the library because I found that it really brought the character to life for me. And it's an interesting way that it's written because the first progress report, you notice right away that the spelling is off, the grammar's off. It would be like somebody with that IQ trying to write a progress report, very realistic in that way. But the audio is great because he's speaking it exactly how he would say it, how it would be said. So it's like easier to understand in a way. I think I'm a few progress reports in. We're at March 28th now. This starts, I think, in the beginning of March. And he's had his operation, and you can see these little subtle changes. You can see them in the writing. So right away you can see he's still making some spelling errors, but for the most part, it's so much better. And he keeps saying how he doesn't feel himself getting any smarter. But here's this really interesting part right here. So he's supposed to talk to this one doctor, and they picked him for this experiment because he was very motivated, eager to please, very pleasant personality. He's so optimistic and in awe of life, and he loves this little mouse, this little lab mouse who's able to do this maze. He's in awe of the intelligence of the mouse. He just can't believe how smart this mouse Algernon is. Algernon. I have a problem saying that word. So here you see an interesting development where the doctor wants him to talk about his memories, and he's like, well, why would I bother talking about it if I'm writing it in the progress report anyway, and you can just read it? So he's starting to make these connections about his behavior and what he really needs to do. He's having these moments of insight and stuff. So it is really interesting how the author is subtly putting these little clues in that his intelligence is increasing. But slowly, because you do see some personality changes already. I think in one section right before, he seems like he's experiencing more feelings of anger and jealousy, which he wasn't showing before. So it's, I don't really know what's going to happen at all in this book, but, we can see that maybe some of the optimism and innocence of life is leaving him as his intelligence increases. So it's really good. I'm finding it very interesting. So yeah, I'll check in when I get maybe like to the 25% mark. I'm only about 10% right now, but I just wanted to add that in. And here's Mary. Oh yeah, and one more thing I just wanted to mention, Clark's here now too, is that even though I really like this as audio and I think it's being done really well, if you just listen to this as audio, you will miss a lot of clues within the progress reports that shows that he's learning to spell better, because in the first progress report he spells most of the words incorrectly, but now you can see most of them are correct. Even words like dough, which he would previously have spelled wrong, laugh, which he's correcting himself now. So it's really interesting. I don't think this could be just an audiobook. I mean, it could, of course, but you're missing out if you don't actually read it as well. So I'm glad I decided to read along with the audio instead of just switching over to audio. So just something I noticed. But it's really interesting too how he is developing more outward concern for the people around him. I mean, he was really sweet before, but now he's like, he feels bad for Algernon for having to take tests in order to get food. He feels bad for Robinson Crusoe and the troubles that he's experiencing as he's reading the book. And yeah, I really think that the author is doing a great job of these little clues showing that his intelligence is improving. Okay guys, just checking in. I'm about at the halfway point. I'm starting part 3 and I wanted to share my thoughts for the book. It's really, really good so far. I've switched to just the digital book at this point. I kind of let the audio go, but it was great to get the character established in my mind and to get a feel of his personality, which you can still do, of course, without the audio, but I just have it closed because there were some spoilers popping out. But I think it's a really good look at the ethics of these types of scientific experiments. And since they're not currently being done now, and they certainly weren't being done back when this was written, it does give you interesting food for thought in terms of, you know, the perfection of people just as they are. People can live a full, happy experience no matter what their intellectual ability is, and it doesn't necessarily... Intellectual ability doesn't necessarily contribute to a happier life. So I think it's doing a great job of kind of showing us, it's just like presenting to us, like, this is what's happening. This is the good of it. This is the bad of it. And it's not as cut and dry. It's not this miracle, life-changing thing as maybe they initially thought it would be. So yeah, I mean, our sympathies definitely go to Charlie. He's a very likable character, and as he starts to think back and remember and has access to these different parts of his brain, and we're seeing his new perception of how his life has been and how the people in his life have treated him all along. And you see where emotion fits in. Emotion versus intelligence is a really interesting topic that they're kind of showing us. And it's really good because it's a very good example of an author showing us these things instead of being, you know, telling us. Overall, I just think this is a really creative way that the author is talking about these themes through this story and the way that it's told. I think the storytelling is really, really done well. He's not an author that's spelling it out for us so easily. He's not telling us things. He's finding creative ways to bring the information up. And the fact that Charlie keeps having these flashbacks and seeing events that happened to him in his past that have to do with his parents and his sister and his coworkers, and his perception changing of thinking these people were his friends and his family, and now he's developing more self-awareness. And yeah, it's interesting to see how his intelligence is expanding, but still struggling with the emotional part of it. The emotional part is very, very overwhelming, and he's not sure how to process a lot of things. So it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. So I'll check back in either when I finish it or maybe at the 3/4 mark of the book just to see how it's going. It's really good. Okay guys, I just finished Flowers for Algernon. It's very late at night, so I'm going to go to bed now, but it was really good. Oh, it's really, really good. And it made me want to go right back to the beginning and start reading again. So that is always, when I feel that way about a book, I usually give it a 5-star because that means it had such a good emotional impact on me. So I don't really know what to say without giving away spoilers, but I do like how it ended. I liked the journey that this character went on. I thought it was done really, really, really well. The progress report style of writing was really creative, and I think it was such a great way to tell the story. I mean, we only get Charlie's perspective the whole time. That's it, and it was really powerful that way. And I'm going to gather my thoughts, and then I will do a wrap up, and I will probably talk about a little bit of spoilers in the end. And then we'll go from there. But I really, really liked it. It was a great book. One of my favorite books of the year so far, I think. It was great. I understand the hype. I agree with the hype. Yeah, we'll say that. All right, guys, I just wanted to film my thoughts really quickly because I finished Flowers for Algernon, and I don't think I ever talked about it. It's been a few weeks, so let's wrap this up. But oh my goodness, this was an amazing book. It was really good. It took a little while for me to get into it, I'll be honest, but once I did get into it, I just was fascinated by this whole sort of thought experiment type of story. And it's really hard to talk about without getting into spoilers. I know a lot of people have read it, but I don't know if you're watching, if you've read it or not. So I'll leave a couple spoilers at the very end. I'll leave a timestamp. But what I really liked about it was the format for how the story was told. It was told so interestingly in these progress reports, so you can actually really see his intelligence increasing. And I don't really want to talk too much more about what happens, but I like that it explored the different relationships in his life. I like that we got to see so many flashbacks and memories of his life as they were coming back to him. And it was an interesting concept of how, you know, his intelligence increased quicker than his emotional intelligence increased, if that makes sense. His emotional regulation and his like ability to process feelings and stuff. So that was a really interesting theme that they talked about. And you know, a lot of people were devastated by the book or cried a lot or were really moved by it, and I was really moved by it, but I didn't see the ending as necessarily negative. I kind of felt as though I felt positive at the end. And I can't get in, I don't want to get into it, but I will in a minute. But overall, it was a wonderful book. I did immersion reading, so I listened to the audio as well as reading it. And I think it's really important to physically read it because you can see it's written in a way that helps tell the story, if that makes sense. But listening to the audio really brought Charlie to life for me as well. It's a very good narrator. So now to get into the spoilers, if you want to click off, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. But as far as a couple spoilers are, I like how in the end, even though Charlie lost his intelligence, he overall was happier, and his original spirit, who he truly is, came back. And it was a really interesting idea how he realized, you know, at the peak of his smartness, that he had lost so many things along the way. Being super intelligent isn't necessarily equal to happiness, or doesn't exactly equal to a better quality of life, because he was happy before. He was living in the moment. He didn't remember the bullying. He didn't remember the awful treatment from his parents. Not to say that it's wrong, but the way that his brain filtered it all out, he was still able to have a very happy and fulfilling life to him. It's just the people on the outside view it as negative. And so, you know, it's just a crazy idea, though, to think of him reaching this intelligence and knowing what's going to happen. That was such an interesting part of the story for me, knowing that he was going to decline back down and sort of racing against time to see if he could find a way out of it. He did want to keep his intelligence, but he really made peace with it. I love that he went to visit that house, or the facility that he was going to be living in, to check it out, to make sure it was going to be okay. And it was an interesting dynamic with him and Alice, the teacher, and how there were only certain moments in this journey that they truly were compatible, when they were equal in intelligence, and they were such short periods, but they both realized it and they embraced it. And oh, also, I wrapped it up and then I started walking away, and then I realized there was one more point I wanted to make. I thought it was really cool how, so the whole story is told through Charlie's point of view, through his progress reports, what he's deciding to share, what he's providing in terms of his contribution to the experiment. And it's interesting because he's going through, I'm sorry if you hear the gunshots. I live in the country and, here in America, so somebody's doing target practice over there. But anyway, I like how we only view his experience through his eyes, and we rely on the feedback of the people around him to explain to us that he is acting really poorly in terms of his personality changes. So we hear from Alice, his love interest, that he's become very arrogant and conceited, and we hear from the people that he works with in the experiment that he's just becoming kind of insufferable. And we don't get that really from his point of view, but we're getting it through the conversations he's having and relaying about their feedback to him, and that's how we're getting it. So it was an interesting way to add that into the story, because he didn't necessarily have the insight into how he was being perceived. Because his intelligence was so high, he almost was still behind with the social cues and things. So that was a really interesting part. I just wanted to add that. It was just such a great, interesting book. I'm really glad I read it. I gave it 5 stars. And yeah, if you guys know of any other books similar to that, or if he's written anything really good, let me know. But thank you so very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Yes, country life in America. There's the gunshots, if you heard them. I don't know if you heard them through this, but I'm going to keep walking. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Take care.